All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start 9.4. We're going to get into volume. Have you ever done anything on volume before? It's very similar to area, except it has one more dimension, right? So think of a Kleenex box, and you think about what's the Kleenex that's inside that Kleenex box, right? That's the volume inside is how much space inside of something has, like a bathtub or a bucket, right? So the volume is the space inside a glass of water. We have 3 dimensions, and that's how our warm-up's going to connect today. So we look to see, right, we can multiply in any order, so which would be easier? I'm going to say that I'm going to get 40, and then 4 times 7 is 28 with the 0, right, 280. And then right here we are, let's see, I would say, either way it's going to be some work, right? So mental math, so I try not to use the calculator. So 10 times 7 is 70, 7 times 2 is 14, so we have 84, and then we have 84 times 8, right? And so we have 32, we have 64, 67, and 130 times 7, right? 0, 21, 7, 910. And then we have, let's see, either way it's going to be a little challenging. So we'll have maybe 3 times 15 is 45, times 11, 5, 4, 5, 4. So we have 495. Right. So the main idea, we're going to find the volume of a prism. Okay, so, and then next lesson's obviously volume of a pyramid. So we take the volume of a prism is the product, right, multiplication of the area of the base. So we take the area of the base, and that's what we represent as big B right there. Remember I told you how lowercase and uppercase letters start to mean something towards the end of 7th grade. Like big A means area, and big S means surface area. Now big B means the area of the base. Okay, so and we have big C for circumference and stuff like that. But if we just do a little x, right, that's a variable. Right, so just be aware of that. That when as we progress in math, our uppercase and lowercase letters do mean something different, right? So we have to make sure that we do them appropriately. So we find the area of the base, and then we just multiply it by the height of the prism. Pretty simple. All right, so a treasure chest is filled with valuable pearls. Each pearl is about 1 centimeter in diameter and is worth about $80. Use the diagram below to describe 2 ways you can estimate the number of pearls in the treasure chest, right? And so we're looking at all these pearls, and we say that they're about 1 centimeter in diameter, right? And so you can see that they've, estimated them, and you can do an array, right? So we can do an array, and then also you can, measure by weight, okay? And so right? And so when we look at, it's just kind of a way to think about volume. So that's why I put this chest picture in here. So you can see that this is the volume inside of the chest. This main reason here is the volume, how much something holds. All right. And we're not going to do C. All right, so you know the formula for volume of a rectangular prism is volume equals length times width times height, right? Or we know that length times width equals the area, right? And so that's how volume equals area of the base times the height. Okay, so that's just how that comes about. Write a formula that gives the volume in terms of the area of the base and height. I guess we just did that. use both formulas to find the volume of each prism. Do both formulas give you the same volume, right? So okay, so we have volume equals length times width times height. So we'll just pick one. Let's pick this one. Right, so we have a 2 by 3 by 2, right? So we have a 3 length, a 2 width, and a 2 height. Right? And so we get 3 times 2 is 6 times 2 is 12. And let's use volume equals base times height. And so we would have, well, what's the area of the base, right? The area of the base here is 6, and the height is 2. And so it gives us 12. So we see that it gives us the same. We're not going to do all of them. All right, so volume equals the area of the base times the height, or volume equals length times width times height. All right. The reason why this is going to come in handy is you might not have the basic length times width as a base, right? Maybe we'll have a triangular thing that we have to figure out, right? And that's what's the area of the base times the height. So it doesn't matter what length times, if it's length times width, or 1/2 base times height, right, for a triangular base. All right, so we're going to go with volume equals, right? And so I can see that this base down here is going to be a length times width, right? And that's going to equal 6 times 8 or 8 times 6. Doesn't matter. And so we have 48. And then we have our height, which is 15. Right, so 48 times 15. If you went for that calculator, this is what you should be doing on your own in your head. So 40, right? 5 times 4 is 20. 4, add the 0 for the placeholder. 1 times 8 is 8. 1 times 4 is 4. And add those together, and we get 720. So volume equals 720 yards. And since B is going to equal yards squared, and we're going to multiply that by another yard for the height, right? We have yards cubed, right? Volumes are cubed, right? Because we have 3 dimensions that we are multiplying by each other. Base, right? And so if we're looking at all of these right here, it's not sitting on its base, right? So not on the base. Okay, so it's not on the base. So we have to look to say, okay, well, what is the base? And there are triangular bases, right? So this is a triangular base. So this right here is our base, one of our bases, right? So this is our base right here, right? And it's just not sitting on it, which is fine, right? You think about a Kleenex box, you can set it on its side and still be a Kleenex box, right? So we have volume equals base times height, right? And so our base is going to equal 1/2 of our triangular base times our height, right? And so we have 1/2 times 5.5 times 4, right? So 2 times 1/2 times 4 is 2. 2 times that 5.5 is 11. So big B, area of base, equals 11. Okay, and so we'll go over here. Volume equals 11 inches squared, and then we have our height of 2 inches. This is where our inches cubes come in, right? Because this is really inches to the 1 power, right? But we don't write it as that. It's not a standard format. So we wouldn't write 1 right there, but we have to know that it is. Something you'll learn later is when you're multiplying exponents together. So say you have 5 to the 2nd power times 5 to the 3rd power. We add our exponents, right? So this would be 5 to the 5th power. Right? But you'll believe that's one of your first lessons as you come into 8th grade about exponents multiplication. All right, so volume equals 22 inches cubed. All right, a couple to do on your own. Go ahead and push pause and give yourself an opportunity to try them on your own. All right, so volume equals area of the base times the height. Volume equals 4 times 4, right? Times the height, which is 4, right? So we have 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 4, 64 feet cubed. All right, so volume of the base times the height. Volume equals, now remember, this is our base, right? And so we have 1/2 times 5 is the base here, and times 12 is the height. It's sitting on its side as well. Times 9 would be the height. So imagine we flip this, right? So it's sitting on here, right? And then we would see that 9 would become the height. And so 1/2 of 12 is 6, times 5 is 30, 9 times 3 is 27 with a 0 on the end, and we get 270 meters squared. If you were, what the heck? I thought you said it's cubed. It is cubed, right? Just making sure you're paying attention, right? Meters cubed. All right, so a movie theater designs 2 bags to hold 96 cubic inches of popcorn. Find the height of each bag. Which bag should the theater choose to reduce the amount of paper needed, right? So it said that the 2 bags hold 96 cubic inches, right? So that just means inches cubed. So that tells us it's volume. Okay. And so we have volume, right? So using our formula, volume is area of the base times the height. And this is what we're looking for. We're looking for H. We have the volume. We know it's 96 inches cubed. And we can figure out the base here. Big B equals 3 times 4. Big B equals 4 times 4. Right? You see the base is a little bit different. A little shorter, but a little bit bigger on the base. We have 12 and 16. Okay, so now we'll say, okay, well, let's figure out the 12 times the height. And since it's attached, right, this looks very familiar, right, from the beginning of school. So divide by 12, divide by 12. We get 96 divided by 12. 96 divided by 12, and that equals 8, right? And actually, I want to show you something really fast on how the units go away, right? So I'm going to get rid of this really fast. I need to make some more room. Right? Because this is 12 inches squared, right? Because it's area, so 12 inches squared times the height. So when we divide by 12 inches squared, when we divide exponents, right, we actually subtract, right? So this would be 3 minus 2, and that leaves us with 8 inches, which would be our height, and that's what we're actually looking for there, right? Because height is going to be in inches, right? So this would be from here to here, 8 inches. We'll choose different colors so we can kind of keep our work a little separate. We're running a little out of room, so I'm going to do it right here. Volume equals base times height. 96 inches cubed equals 16 inches squared times the height. I divide by my 16 inches squared. Goes away. Just have h on that side. Divide by 16 inches squared. And we would end up with 96 divided by 16, which equals 6, right? So 6 inches would be the height for the second bag, right? So this equals 6 inches, right? So we found the height. So determine the amount of paper needed. Find the surface area of the bags. Do not include the top base, right? And that means that the bag's open, right? If we put a base there, we wouldn't have any thing. So surface area, right, of a rectangular prism. All right. So surface area is going to equal our length times our width of one side, right? That's our top and our bottom, plus 2 times the length times height, that's of our side right there, and then plus the 2 times the width times the height, and that would be the front section right there, right? But we only have one of these, right? Because we're not including the top part, right? So it's just the bottom base. So we don't multiply the first one by 2. So this is going to equal 3 times 4 plus 2 times the length times the height, 3. If we're just putting it in order, just so you see it in order. 2 times 3 times 8, and then plus the front, which would be 4. 2 times 4 times 8. And we'll work all that out. We get 12 plus 24 times 2 is 48, plus 8, 64. And so together, this makes 50, 60, 124 inches squared. That's for the tall bag. And then I guess my colors aren't matching up because I did one for the other, but we'll figure it out. And so the same thing, and so I'm not going to write this formula down, but I'm just going to use it just right above. And so I have, let's see, the length times the width to the bottom, so 4 times 4 plus 2 times, let's see, that would be the length times the height, so 4 times 6 plus 2 times the front, which would be 4 times 6 as well. So we have 24, 48 plus 48 plus 16. So 40, 80, 90, 106, 112. All right, so to answer this question, which bag should the theater choose to reduce the amount of paper? Well, they would choose bag B because it saves them 12 inches, squared inches of space, right? Less paper is being used in bag B. All right, you design a bag C that has a volume of 96 cubic inches. Should the theater, in example 3, choose your bag, right? So now we just have to say, okay, well, what's the volume? Actually, the volume has, we need to find the height, right? So volume equals base times height. Oops, we know the volume already. So we had 96 cubic inches. And we know the base over here is big B equals 4 times 4.8. So 4.8 times 4, 19.2 inches squared. So 19.2 inches squared times our height, divide by 19.2 inches squared, goes to 0 or goes to 1. 19.2 inches squared. 96 divided by 19.2. That gives us 5 inches equals our height. And so equals 5 inches. And so now surface area equals length times width plus 2 times the length, oops, that's L, length times the height plus 2 times the width times the height. And so we're going to plug all that in. We have length times width, that's the base, so I'm just going to use this right here because we already have that, 19.2. It would just be 4 times 4.8, and then we have 2 times 4 times 5 plus 2 times 4.8 times 5. Alright, so this one's pretty easy. We have 20, that's 40. And then 10, 2 times 5 is 10, move decimal place over, so we have 48. Alright, and so 88 plus 19.2, and we get equals 107.2 inches squared, right? So if we're looking at the 3 different options that we have, right? We have 124, we have 112, we have 107. So what would we explain? Would we choose bag C? And we say yes, we would. Yes. Because it uses 112 minus 107.2, 4.8 inches squared less paper. Alright. Alright, so a little extra ticket for you to do. I'm going to pause the video and you can check your answers after. Pause the video as well for yourself if you want to try them before I do them. Alright, working through the problems. Again, finding the area of the base, multiplying it by the height. Again, be sure when you're looking at your triangular prisms there that you know, or the prisms with a triangular base, that you figure out what the base and the height of the base is, right? So 6 by 7 and then times a half. That's where 21 comes from, right? And then same thing here down below, 1/2 times 9 times 14, right? We're looking at the front. That's the base. It's just not sitting on it. And the height is actually 2 meters. So you check those answers and be on your way. And that's the last of it. Have a great day.